welcome to Creations with X. Today I'm going to teach you how to purl. So you're going to take your needles and you're going to take your yarn. You're going to do what I do. So first you're going to want to make your cast on. So you're going to make a slip stitch first. You're going to take your yarn, kind of loop it like this, loop it around back, and scoop it through. You're going to take your needles, going to feed it into your yarn loop, and you're going to cast on. I'm just going to do a basic cast on, just a couple of stitches, just to introduce the idea. Doesn't need to be a very big sample. Let's see. Okay. So you're going to take your needle and your yarn. Fair warning, I am a continental knitter, meaning I hold my yarn end in this hand, and I have it's a bit more of a specific style of knitting, so you can, if this isn't your style, there are other styles out there. So, to purl, you're going to take your needle and you're going to move your yarn to the front of your brick. Now, you're going to want to hold your needle in front of your yarn, in front of your needle, like this. Then you're going to insert your needle to the front. You're going to swoop, hook it under, and pull off. And you're going to do that again. To the front, swipe it over, and pull off. So it's really quite simple. Just keeping your yarn to the front. You want to knit like this. So this is purling. Purling is the only other stitch in knitting. It is knitting and purling. As you can see, it's a bit different. It can be a bit more trickier, actually. I would say it's trickier. But you're gonna go like that. Could do that instead, just so that the yarn stays there when you're purling. Purling can be used to make different kinds of stitch patterns in your knitting, such as stockinette stitch, which is where you knit one row and purl the next. That's stockinette. You can also do patterns such as seed stitch and ribbing, to name a few basic ones. I found that for basic purling, you can also just keep your yarn behind the needle. So you see how I'm just kind of holding it like this and still purling? That can work for basic stitches, like the one I'm showing you now. That can work for like a basic stitch pattern, such as seed stitch. But if you were to do a technique known as double knitting, or I believe it's double knitting, which is where you're basically knitting with two different colors, kind of making a double-sided fabric, you would have to hold your needle in front, as that would mess it up. Or your yarn in front, not your needle. But as a shortcut, this can work for certain things. And it still has the same effect. So you can see, just going to keep purling. If you just purl every row, if you just purl every single row, it will produce a garter stitch effect, much like knitting. Or real regular knitting, but you can see here it's got like a bit of a garter stitch effect. So that's what happens if you just purl. I'm going to show you what stockinette stitch looks like. So we just purled the last round or row. I'm going to knit this one and then just show you what stockinette stitch looks like. So, ended that round. If I flip it over, you can see how it's starting to look kind of like this. It doesn't really look, you're starting to see the differences. So now I'm going to purl this round, just using my little technique. Like you can, like it is, like if you're going to be doing double knitting though, definitely hold your yarn to the front. This is just a shortcut that works for a simple pattern. And just a handy thing I found out, if you've purled a stitch and you don't remember if you purled, like if you don't remember which stitch you did last if you're working a pattern, if you don't remember if you did a purl or a knit stitch, you can look at your yarn, or look at your stitch, your previous stitch. So this is the stitch I just worked, this is the yarn. So the way to tell is to look at which direction the yarn is coming out of the stitch. If it's coming out of the front, like this, that's a purl stitch. If it was coming out of the back of the knitting, or the back of the stitch from like behind here, that's a knit stitch. I will show you on the next round. So, one moment. This is just how I like to purl. But yeah, the proper way to purl is to hold your yarn in front. I just use that as a bit of a shortcut, so it's if I'm doing seed stitch or something. That way I don't have to move my yarn every which way all the time. Let's see, you can see my yarn is coming out of the front of my stitch. Now I'm going to flip my work. You can see it's starting to look a bit like stockinette stitch there. Now I'm just going to knit like 3 stitches, then I'll show you. Okay, see how it's coming out of the back of the stitch? That's how you can tell if you just did a knit stitch or not. You can see it's coming out of the back of the stitch. But yeah, for seed stitch, or like maybe just ribbing, I would just keep my yarn back here the entire time. So if I wanted to purl, I wouldn't have to move it back and forth just to save a bit of time. But there are techniques that there are techniques that trick will not work for. I just want you to see, this is what stockinette stitch looks like, the front anyway. The back is all these bumps. It kind of looks like really condensed garter stitch. Yeah. See? I'm going to demonstrate the purl round one last time. So like this, insert, sweep up and grab it, sweep up and grab it, and pull through, and then pull off. Insert, sweep up and grab it. And another thing you really want to do is to go down through the front of your loop. In knitting, when you're doing the knit stitch, you want to go under, you want to go up and through the back, to the back. When you're purling, you want to go down and through the front.